Seconds. Yeah. Did you hear that? That's weird. All right. So of course I'm getting the echo. Here we go. There we go. All right. We are live, Marcus. I did it. And it's always amazing to me when I can do it, get it done.
It's not easy.
All right. Welcome, nonprofit leaders. I'm Nancy Manning, founder of Austin Nonprofit Meetup, Empower Your Mission. And our guest today is Marcus Cunningham. Marcus is the Director of Institutional Giving at New Leaders in Dallas. Marcus, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Of course, I'm very honored to have you. Tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, so I am Marcus Cunningham. I am calling y'all from Dallas. So, right up the highway for many of you, on the unceded land of the Wichita and the Tawakoni and the Humanos and the Kickapoo. So acknowledging the land that I'm on and the land that we still occupy. I am a native of Dallas. I am a Black fundraiser. I have experience across the social sector, but particularly in education nonprofits, making sure that students and communities have a just and equitable education. And so I am really happy to be here talking to y'all today.
Excuse me, I was watching to see who's here. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about New Leaders, your organization? What's it all about? What do you do?
Absolutely. So New Leaders, I work remotely for New Leaders. So we are a national education nonprofit based in New York, and our mission, our goal is to prepare education leaders to deliver breakthrough results in America's highest need schools and advocate for policies that enable great leaders and their students to thrive. And so we work hand in hand with school leaders, helping them, with the tools, with the ideology, with the mindsets that they need to really dismantle inequitable systems in our public education system.
And boy, I sure wish I could ask you that question about the, teachers not being able to teach about racism in our schools, but that's a whole nother topic.
Absolutely.
Anyway, hey, last week, Marissa DeSales walked us through the 12 principles of community-centric fundraising. Can you share with us how you at New Leaders have adopted community-centric fundraising strategies at New Leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. So this has really been a journey for us, but I've been really excited in the journey that we've taken already. So I will say that New Leaders is 20 years old. We have always had a focus on equity in education. I think the new thing for us, or the newer thing for us, is this real focus on anti-racism, this focus on, as I said before, dismantling unjust and inequitable systems. And so that part of the journey is one that we're still on. Obviously, everybody's on some part of the journey, but what our development teams, so we have a development team of 6, and we wanted something that really speaks to the context of fundraising and how that anti-racism work shows up in our fundraising, in our interactions with our supporters. And fortunately, I had started organizing for community-centric fundraising here in Texas around the same time that I started at New Leaders. And so as an organizer for CCF, my job really is to do a couple things. It's to help spread the movement generally, to make sure that people know the values of the movement, which is, transforming fundraising and center it around race, equity, and social justice. But it's also lives in these principles, the principles that Marissa talked about last week, in getting those principles embedded in our strategic and tactical work. And so presenting CCF from that framework, our development team, and especially shout out to our newer Chief Development Officer, Steve Haddett, who started this past January. We were pretty quick to actually commit to those principles in a more formal way. And I think that's a credit to our willingness to really go deep and really talk about the inequities that exist in the fundraising profession and in the social sector in general. That's also speaks to just our desire to continually want to do better and learn better and kind of, fail together and learn together and build together. So we committed to the CCF, we committed to CCF in its principles a couple months ago at this point. I think there's a lot of things that I can share. I think there's a couple of things that I really want to share to kind of drive home what this means for us. I think the first thing is as I'm navigating Zoom also, give me a second. I think the first thing is so you should be able to see this document. Then if you're not able to see, there we go. And so what you'll see here are our development team key success drivers. So this is our internal team agreements. These are the rules or the ideas that govern how we work together and how we work with external partners and how we work with internal partners as well. And as you can see, maybe to see, depending on your screen size, a lot of these are really about relationship building. They're really about the actual community-centric fundraising principles, which you'll see in Success Driver 3. They're about building healthy relationships with our internal stakeholders. All of these things that are needed to move our fundraising from transactional to transformational, to a place where we are centering community, where we're centering all of our stakeholders and not just our funders, where we're really making sure that we're building a movement and we're building a mission together. And so that's really that's part of the work that we're trying to do here. And I want to share that. I think another thing that has really come up are from those success drivers going into our planning. And so we've built out our annual plan for this year. We have our KPIs, which are our top level metrics, as we know. So our big goal this year is 14.5 million in new private revenue, 1.5 million of that from new revenue. And so we have very lofty goals. But within those goals, we have the strategy to create powerful and compelling cases for support and storytelling that are centered around our work on behalf of Black and Latinx students and those students who experience poverty. So again, the KPI, 14.5 million, the strategy, creating powerful and compelling cases, going into some of our leading indicators, some of those day-to-day things that help us determine success. We're looking at kind of your traditional things like, average, revenue by source. We're looking at, lapsed donors, new donors. But we're also looking at things like the growth and relationship stages with our prospect base. We're looking at things like the level of contributor care and connection. Not only what are we doing with our supporters, but how are those things moving them along? How are they moving them along the moves management process? But also how does that help us? How does that help them get feel closer to our mission, and not just feel closer, but like actually willing to go out and support Black and Latinx students. And so it's not just a monetary thing. It is a supporter stepping up to say that we want to support you. And financial is, money is one way to do that, but we also have this wider array of resources that we can leverage in service of this mission. So it's those types of things that are showing up in our work so far, and we're still obviously we're pretty early in this. Our fiscal year starts on July 1, like a lot of you, so we are very anxious to figure out more of the what and the how. I think that we have some challenges ahead of us. So in my role as Director of Institutional Giving, I work with nationally facing foundations. So a lot of your name brand foundations that you may be familiar with, and that can be a difficult crowd to work with. I think that in my work, I am committed to building authentic relationships, and I think that I am committed to really having authentic conversations. What does it mean to support a mission that is explicitly about improving the outcomes for Black and Latinx students. And those conversations are going to be difficult. That's something that I've prepared for. That's something that our team is continuing to prepare for. We are, we're practicing together. We're having conversations. We're test casing different scenarios that come across our desk, and we're really prepared to have those type of conversations. And I think the main thing there is that we are prepared to have those conversations regardless of the outcome. The goal is, of course, to continue supporting this mission on behalf of our organization, but the goal also is to be in community with our communities of focus, which are students and school leaders, and be in community with our larger stakeholder group. So that is kind of where we stand in terms of new leaders. It fits in very nicely with my organizing work, as I said. The benefit of both fundraising nationally and localizing locally is that everything talks to each other. The things that I'm learning on the ground are floating up to my work here, and the things that I'm learning in my work are floating back down to the ground and the grassroots and benefiting the collective community.
Wow, that was a lot. I had to get up and to get some notes because I actually have some questions. The document you shared, what was that called?
So those were called our key success. Key success drivers. I shared two, so I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share that by any chance with folks?
Absolutely. So we'll make a copy of those and we'll make it publicly available. And so I can send you the link, Nancy, for you to post.
Yeah, I was trying to read as you were, of course I couldn't read that fast, but
absolutely.
And I like, what's attractive to me is the whole relationship building, as in any type of fundraising. I like that this is so much more expansive, when we look at community-centric fundraising. But here's where I think there are some challenges. I can remember back in 2011 or so, or 12, giving a presentation to my board when I was an executive director about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now all of a sudden I'm looking around and I'm going, hey, we're not really doing that much better in the nonprofit sector. So what do you think about the fact that can you practice community-centric fundraising if internally you don't have those pieces put together, diversity, equity, inclusion? What do you think about that?
That is a great question. I would say yes. I would say yes for two reasons. We use a number of different, organizing techniques. We use Liberated Structures, which is a website that I highly recommend and that we can share. One of those is the 15% solution. So the 15% solution basically says, look at the things that are within your locus of control and change them. And it's, really simple, but really powerful. There is always something that you can do to advance the work of equity and inclusion in your workplace. And it may not show off, it may not pay off immediately, but people will see that. People will see that in the collective conversation is moving in a direction where you're going to end up being ahead of the curve in your organization. Organizations that aren't talking about racial justice at this point are behind. They're actually getting lapped at this point. They're at a point where they cannot continue to do their work without having these conversations. So you, in your seat, wherever you are, you can make those changes. And if you happen to be in a higher seat, then you can push those conversations, and you can do it in a way that is aligned to your values, and you can do it in a way that again centers your community in service of your mission.
I really like the idea of even introducing something simple about conversations within your own organization. Helping you and your people become just more aware is a huge start, and then there are steps you can take. But listen, do you, I know, well, you have a job, but does Does anybody do training in this for nonprofits? Walk in the door, I'm not just talking about DEI consultants. I'm talking about CCF. Are there people around that can do that, train nonprofits?
Absolutely. So there's a growing community of consultants who do this work. There's a number of people I could shout out, but I think that I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking of Rachel D'Souza, who runs Gladiator Consulting out in the Midwest. There are a number of people who kind of do this work more formally. I think that the immediate thing that a lot of people can do is go ahead and join our community-centric fundraising Slack. And so it's a open Slack channel, don't be an a-hole is the general rule. But you go in there and you get insights, you get notes from this collective movement that we're building, but then you also get those practical day-to-day questions that people are answering on a regular basis. It's, how do I write a thank you note? It is, how do I talk to this funder? It is, what is your strategic planning look like from a CCF lens? It is all of those smaller things that we're collectively working through as a community.
I like that because those of us, I've been in the nonprofit world for over close to 35 years. And people like me tend to assume, well, I certainly know how to write a thank you note. Well, hello, you need to be more expansive and think, what assumptions am I making as a longtime fundraiser? Maybe I need to question those assumptions. So I think that's important. Now, look, we're at the end of our time, and these topics to me are so critical and so important, but I do try to stay mindful of people's time. So I want to invite everybody in July to our monthly meetup and our live interviews. We're doing networking and how networking can enhance the impact of your nonprofit. And then in August, we're going to talk about evaluation again, data, and how to look at that in this more expansive. In fact, I've got Mimi Stiles next week as my guest, and she's going to launch us a little bit into that issue. But anyway, listen, Marcus, thank you so very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'll email you to get some of the things you talked about. I might have some more questions. So
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for your time, Nancy. And thank you all for listening in, and take care of yourself out there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Marcus. Thanks everybody for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.